I secretly paid off my parents' mortgage, then found out they left the house to my golden child brother. Wait, what do you mean the house is going to James? I blinked at the lawyer like he'd just recited the ending of a movie I hadn't seen. He adjusted his glasses, calm and professional as ever, like this wasn't the verbal equivalent of being kicked in the ribs. It's clearly stated in the updated will, he said, sliding the thick stack of papers toward me. The house is bequeathed in full to your brother, James. I wasn't even supposed to be in that meeting. I only found out about the will update because I caught a glimpse of an email on Dad's unlocked iPad while setting up his prescription reminders. That's what I do, the responsible one. Always managing things behind the scenes while James flies in twice a year with store-bought cookies and gets applauded like a war hero. My stomach twisted. I couldn't believe it. Actually, no. That's a lie. I could. I just didn't want to. Because 3 years ago, when the bank was 2 months from foreclosing on this very house, I secretly drained my savings to pay it off. Quietly. Anonymously. I told them it was a miracle loan forgiveness. And they cried. They thanked God. They hugged me and told me I'd always have a home. Now here I was, finding out that my always ended the moment a newer, shinier version of family walked in. Is there any mention of me? I asked, flipping through the will like I'd find my name in the margins. The lawyer hesitated, that awful, pity-filled pause. Your parents expressed gratitude to you verbally, but there are no direct assets listed in your name. Their reasoning was, James has a family to provide for. I laughed. Like, actually laughed, that dry, stunned kind of laugh that bubbles up when your heart breaks so fast it leaves a ringing in your ears. They left everything to James. James, who forgot Dad's birthday last year. James, who once borrowed $5,000 from them and never paid it back. James, who treats them like a backup wallet. And me? The one who took leave from work when Mom had surgery, who installed grab bars in their shower, who brings them groceries every Sunday like it's a religion? Apparently, I'd figure it out. I left the lawyer's office in a daze, gripping the cold metal door handle just to remind myself what reality felt like. Later that night, I sat in my car in their driveway for a long time, watching the porch light flicker, the one I rewired myself last winter because James didn't have the tools. My fists clenched tighter with every breath. I had one question. Just one. Why? I've had since college, the one I made a copy of when Mom kept locking herself out. Dad was in his recliner, remote in hand. Mom was folding laundry on the couch like it was any normal Tuesday. Neither of them looked surprised to see me. Hey, honey, Mom said without looking up. You want dinner? We've got some leftover lasagna. Why did you leave the house to James? That shut her up. The room froze. The only sound was the TV murmuring about some local car dealership. Dad looked over the rim of his glasses. We were going to talk to you about that. When? After the funeral? During the reading, when I find out I've been kicked out of the house I saved. Mom opened her mouth, then closed it again. She looked at Dad like this was suddenly his mess to handle. We thought it was for the best, he said slowly. James has a wife. 2 kids. You're single. You've got your own apartment. My voice dropped. I don't own that apartment. It's a rental. You know that. But you make good money, Mom chimed in, trying to soften it. You always land on your feet. We figured you'd understand. Understand? I spent nights panicking over whether I'd have enough left to pay my rent after secretly wiring them that last $24,000. I canceled my trip to Ireland. I didn't even tell them. Didn't want them to feel guilty. I clenched my jaw, trying to keep it together. You said I'd always have a home here. You do, Mom said quickly. You always will. That doesn't change. You gave the deed to James, I snapped. You wrote me out of the will. That kind of changes things. Dad sighed like I was the one being unreasonable. He's the one with a family. So I'm punished for not having kids? For not dragging home a spouse you barely know? That's your metric now. Nobody answered. And that was worse than if they'd yelled. I stood there, feeling like I'd just read the final chapter of a book I didn't know I was in, and I didn't like how it ended. I took a step back, heart pounding. So what happens if James decides I don't belong here anymore? If he wants to sell it? What then? More silence. I nodded. Got it. And I left. I got in my car, gripped the steering wheel, and stared at the house for a long time. The porch light flickered again. I rewired that with my own 2 hands. I'd spent years keeping the place from falling apart. And now I had to decide if I wanted to burn the last bridge I had left. That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there staring at the ceiling of my apartment, the 1-bedroom I'd sacrificed a down payment to keep when I paid off their mortgage. Funny how quiet a place can feel when your world's been gutted. By 2 a.m. I was pacing. By 3, I was scrolling through my banking app doing mental gymnastics with numbers I shouldn't have to calculate. And by 4, I was typing a message to James. Hey, just found out the house is yours now. Congrats. I assume you'll be paying for the roof repairs then? And maybe those plumbing issues I flagged last month. I hovered over the send button, then deleted it. Petty didn't suit me even if it would have felt good for half a second. Instead, I texted a realtor friend. Hey, random question. Know any good estate attorneys? Might need to figure out how to claim repayment on a gift. Long story. Because the truth is I didn't sign any documents making that mortgage payout a gift. I used a private account. I paid the bank directly. The paper trail was solid. I never wanted to hold it over them, but they'd left me with nothing but the receipts. Still, something in me hesitated. It wasn't just about money. It was about how much of myself I poured into being the good kid. The dependable one. The one who showed up, shut up, and picked up the pieces. And for what? I opened the family group chat. Old messages sat there like ghosts. James, can someone Venmo me for Dad's birthday cake? I covered it last minute. Mom, of course, sweetheart. Thank you again. Me, no response. I scrolled further. James, we're thinking of coming by this weekend if the weather's nice. Mom, can't wait. I'll stock up on snacks for the kids. Dad, I'll move the car seat from the garage. When I visited. No snacks. No car seat shuffle. Just me and a to-do list. I knew then what the real question was. It wasn't, why didn't they leave me the house? It was, why did I ever think I had to earn their love to begin with? That was the decision. Not whether I should fight for the house, but whether I was done chasing scraps of affection wrapped in obligations. I closed my phone, sat down at the kitchen table, and breathed really breathed for the first time in a long while. I didn't owe them anything. Not anymore. I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't even respond when Mom sent a blurry photo of a lasagna with the caption, made your favorite tonight. Red heart. I stared at it for a while. The same way someone might look at an apology scribbled in pencil on a wall that's already been burned down. A peace offering made of flour and cheese like that could erase a betrayal with layers of ricotta. I left her on read. The silence stretched into a week. No one followed up. James didn't check in. My dad didn't say a word. It was like they were all hoping I'd just get over it. That I'd show up again on Sunday with groceries as if nothing had changed. But I wasn't the same anymore. I didn't stop by. I didn't mow the lawn. I didn't Venmo Dad the water bill he always forgot to pay on time. The second Sunday rolled around, I went to the park instead. Bought myself an overpriced iced coffee and sat under a tree reading a book. I didn't check my phone once. And yet, the guilt crept in like a slow leak. What if something happened? What if Mom fell and no one was there to help? What if James actually started trying? That last one almost made me laugh out loud. By Tuesday, Mom cracked. Hey, haven't heard from you. Everything okay? I waited 4 hours before replying. Just taking some space. Processing some things. She sent back a thumbs up emoji. The digital equivalent of a door closing quietly. But the next day, it wasn't her who reached out. It was James. Hey, so I heard you're upset about the will. I had no idea they didn't include you. Just wanted you to know I didn't ask for the house. They offered. Offered. Like it was a cup of coffee or a sweater they didn't want anymore. I stared at that message so long my screen dimmed. Cool, I finally typed. Hope the new homeowner knows the gutters need cleaning. And the water heater's due to be replaced. Left it at that. And for the first time in years I didn't feel like I had to explain myself. The next time I heard from my parents, it wasn't a text or a call. It was a voicemail, the kind that starts nice and ends with a twist. Hi sweetheart, Mom said, her voice dripping with forced cheer. Just wondering if you're free Sunday. James and the kids are coming over. We'd love to have you too. It's been too long. I let it sit there. Then came the follow-up text an hour later. James is going to make some decisions about the house soon. Thought you might want to be in the loop. Ah, there it was. The hook. So I was worth inviting as long as they needed something from me. Not when they rewrote the will. Not when they decided I didn't matter. But now that the word decision was in the air, suddenly I was valuable again. I showed up, but not to break bread. I wanted clarity. They were already outside when I arrived, sitting around the patio table like it was any other summer day. James was grilling, laughing with his wife. Mom waved like she hadn't just pretended I didn't exist. I didn't even sit down. Let's talk, I said. About the house. Mom looked startled. Can't we just enjoy the afternoon first? No, I said flatly. Let's skip the dance. James sighed like I was ruining the vibe. I'm not trying to take anything from you, okay? But Dad and Mom felt this was best for everyone. I didn't even know until. You didn't object either. I cut in. He set the tongs down a little too hard. What do you want me to do? Refuse it? They made their choice. They made a choice based on the idea that I'd figure it out. That my life, being single, being stable, meant I didn't need family in the same way. Mom stood up then, arms folded. You're twisting this. We were just trying to be fair. To who? I asked. To your brother. He has responsibilities. He needs a secure home for his kids. And I don't need anything? I just exist to help? To fill in the gaps while James gets handed the foundation I built. They didn't answer. The silence roared louder than any words. Finally, Dad spoke. If it means that much to you, we can talk to the lawyer. Maybe split things differently. I held up a hand. No, I don't want scraps. I want you to understand what you did. James rolled his eyes. Look, if this is about money, we can work something out. It's not about the money, I said, sharper than I meant to. It's about the fact that when push came to shove, you all assumed I'd be fine without a second thought. Mom's face softened. You've always been strong. We didn't think. Exactly, I snapped. You didn't think. And with that, I left. Again. But this time, something inside me felt different. Not just angry. Resolved. A week passed. Then another. No one reached out. I thought maybe they'd let it go. That maybe they realized they'd pushed too far, and were letting the silence speak for them. But then James called, and of course it wasn't just to talk. Hey, he said, voice too casual. Just a heads up. We're putting in a request for the deed transfer next month. Taxes and title stuff. Standard paperwork. There it was. The final nail. So you're officially taking the house? I asked even though I already knew. It's what they wanted, he said. Look, I know you're upset, but you're making this harder than it needs to be. I didn't say anything. Come on, he continued. Don't be that person, the bitter one who holds grudges. I could almost hear him smirking. I'm not bitter, I said. I'm just done pretending this was ever fair. I hung up, and then I did something I never thought I would. I sent an email to the lawyer. Just one sentence. Please provide documentation regarding the payoff of the mortgage from my account on date. I'm evaluating repayment options. I stared at the screen for a long time after hitting send. My hands were shaking, not with fear, with fury, with exhaustion, with the weight of years of being the good one, while my parents treated that like a permanent discount on basic respect. 2 hours later, Mom called. I didn't answer. Then Dad. Then James again. The voicemail came from Mom. We heard what you're doing. Honey, please don't go down this road. You'll destroy this family. Too late, I thought. This family wasn't built on love. It was built on convenience. And I was the scaffolding no one thanked, just climbed on again and again. I opened my laptop and started typing out a statement. My side of the story. Not for social media. Not for drama. Just for myself. And I ended it with something I hadn't said out loud before. I don't want the house. I want peace. Then I closed the laptop and stepped outside. The sky was pink and low, the kind that makes you feel like the world is about to turn a page. 2 days after I requested the mortgage records, James showed up at my door. Uninvited. I opened it just enough to lean against the frame. He didn't even say hello, just launched right in. Are you seriously trying to sue Mom and Dad? Over money you gave them? I didn't answer right away. Just watched him, arms crossed, waiting to see if he'd even pretend to care why. He took my silence as fuel. This is messed up. You know that, right? You're going to ruin everything over some charity case you decided to play hero in. My jaw tightened. It wasn't charity. I paid off their mortgage. Silently, so they could keep the house. I didn't do it for thanks, but I sure didn't do it so you could walk off with it like a game show prize. His face twisted. This is about jealousy. No, I said, stepping outside and closing the door behind me. This is about consequences. You benefited from a lie, and now you get to learn how that feels. Mom's been crying all week, he said, like it was supposed to make me back down. Dad's stressed out. They don't deserve this. I laughed bitterly. Neither did I. For a decade I carried this family. Paid bills, ran errands, took care of everything so you could live your perfect little part-time son life. They didn't write me out of the will by accident. They made a statement. James went quiet, and then he muttered, "You think you're better than me?" I shook my head. "I am better than you, James. That's the problem." He flinched. Good. He turned to leave, then stopped. "This is going to destroy them." I didn't say anything until he was already halfway down the steps. Then I called after him, "Maybe they should have thought about that when they decided what I was worth." He didn't reply, just walked off like a man who'd realized the ATM was closed. Permanently. I shut the door and leaned against it, pulse racing. This time I didn't feel like the bad guy. I felt like someone who'd finally stopped apologizing for matching. A few days after James stormed off, Dad called. I let it ring. Then Mom called. Then both again. Then a text popped up. "Please come by. We need to talk. No tricks. Just talk." So I went. They were waiting at the kitchen table when I arrived, both looking smaller than I remembered. Not frail, just reduced. Like the weight of their own choices was finally starting to settle in. Dad cleared his throat. "We didn't realize you felt so." "Don't," I said. "Don't act surprised. You raised me to believe family meant sacrifice. But you never noticed whose blood was always on the altar." Mom looked like she'd been crying. "We made a mistake." "Yeah," I said, sitting down across from them. "You did." There was a long pause. Then Dad pushed a folder toward me. "We called the lawyer. We're rewriting the will. Splitting the house 50-50 between you and James. You'll both own it." I didn't even open the folder. "I don't want half." They looked up, confused. "I don't want a compromise. I don't want a percentage. I don't want to share it with someone who thinks I'm replaceable. And I'm not interested in earning your guilt." Dad's face fell. "Then what do you want?" I looked at them for a long time before answering. "I want acknowledgement. Not just words, I want the truth documented. You're going to sign a statement, notarized, acknowledging that I paid off your mortgage in full with dates and amounts. And you're going to transfer that amount to me from your estate. If not now, then later. But legally. On record." They exchanged a glance. "And James," I added. "He stays out of it." Mom blinked. "You'd really take money over the house?" I nodded. "Because the house was never the point. It was about being seen. You didn't see me, not for years. This doesn't fix it. But it starts the ledger." Dad leaned back, staring at the folder like it had turned into something else entirely. After a moment, he nodded. "Okay." Mom wiped her eyes. "Okay." It wasn't joy I felt. Not satisfaction. Just quiet resolve. I got up to leave. Before I walked out, I paused at the door and said, "Thank you for finally listening." Then I left and didn't look back. The check came 6 weeks later. A formal letter accompanied it, typed and signed and notarized, with the exact mortgage amount I'd paid, plus interest. Not a gift. Not hush money. A repayment. An acknowledgement. I didn't tell anyone. Not friends, not coworkers. I folded the letter into a drawer with my birth certificate and passport, then deposited the check and let it sit in my savings untouched. Not because I was planning to use it, but because seeing the balance rise without the weight of shame was its own kind of wealth. James never followed up. He got the house, the yard, the creaky back porch I fixed in the rain one Thanksgiving morning while they all watched football inside. I saw a photo of it on social media last week. The porch, repainted. A new grill. His youngest kid holding a sparkler. It didn't sting the way I thought it would. Because the house might have been theirs, but I'd already reclaimed myself. I moved to a new place a few months later. Nothing fancy but mine. With walls I chose. Furniture I didn't inherit. And a front door that doesn't need a key from a forgotten childhood. My parents send the occasional message now, weather updates, thinking of you, little things like that. I reply sometimes. Sometimes I don't. It's not revenge. It's boundaries. And that's the difference between who I was and who I am now. I don't need to prove my value. I don't need to buy my place in the story. I just need peace. And I have it. No applause. No big reunion. Just this. A quiet room. A steady heart. And the sound of a life finally unfolding on my terms.